permanent compensation. No one followed. We went ahead, Mr. Speaker, and said there should be affirmative action to ensure that the Talai community that have settled somewhere in Talai, near my place, Sironoi, Mr. Speaker, they must be given alternative land. National Commission was directed, Mr. Speaker, that the county government and national government should take affirmative action of employing some of the children and sons of Talai community, Mr. Speaker. That one was never done. Another issue, Mr. Speaker, on that report, because I'm just using an example so that members can get me, is that mutual legal assistance be provided by the national government through the Attorney General's office to pursue their justice the way some of the Mau Mau went into innings of London, Mr. Speaker. It was never done. Why? Because it was resolved, it was adopted. But there is no reporting mechanism to tell this House that on the issue of land, alternative land for Talai, the National Land Commission has done, has allocated land, the Talai has settled. There is no reporting mechanism, Mr. Speaker. Now, this law is trying to be prescriptive, Mr. Speaker. If today we say every child that goes to ECD, there must be a school feeding program for ECD if a motion is brought, Mr. Speaker. That motion, if there are resolutions, they should be in the Education Committee, Mr. Speaker, through the clerk, should be able to report back to the House and tell the House all ECD centers across the country in 47 counties are feeding daily, and therefore they are not being threatened with hunger, and ensure attendance in the classroom, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you have heard the President is working on cleaning of Nairobi River, among others in the country, and the Nairobi River Commission has been formed. And I can see my friend, the famous one, Ferdinand Waititu, is part of that commission, Mr. Speaker. That cleaning exercise is done. How do we ensure that the Committee on Lands, Environment, and Natural Resources reports back and ensure that the executive has cleaned Nairobi River, Mr. Speaker? So this bill that my brother, Senator Danson Mungatana, is trying to do is prescription. It is being prescriptive, Mr. Speaker, in reporting mechanism, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, it is even implementation. Because, Mr. Speaker, if today we say maybe there are people who have been evicted, for example, anywhere across the country, Mr. Speaker, like the Ruai case during COVID season. Mr. Speaker, you remember that case. If that people of Ruai were to be resettled, for example, who will ensure those people have resettled if we do not have an implementation mechanism, Mr. Speaker? And that is why we have defined that responsible officer means the relevant public officer to whom a resolution or a report of a House or Committee of Parliament is submitted in accordance with this Act. Clause number 23B, the clerk of the relevant House, which under Article 93, you know, Parliament is both the Senate and the National Assembly, within 7 days of a resolution of the House, and the House means both, as explained by Article 9, or the tabling of a report of the Committee of the House, convey the resolution or a copy of the report, as the case may be, to the responsible officer under whose portfolio the implementation, resolution, or recommendation of the committee falls, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, what does that mean? It means if there is implementation, it must be submitted to us. And the clerk, Mr. Speaker, after the resolutions has been done, our clerks, some of them are on table office, and I know the seniority. Some of them have been with us for long. I can see the others who are new, Mr. Speaker, and they are learning the ropes. Mr. Speaker, when we resolve, we give it to the clerks to transmit. For example, if it is about resettlement, for example, we now, let me use the Light Land Historical Injustice Report. We adopt, and then we transmit to the AG a copy. We transmit to the National Land Commission a copy. That is now the work of the clerk. And that is why we have said the responsible officer is what the report has been directed to do, including the reports that I remember, Mr. Speaker, since you are also the chairperson of JLAC, we were doing a report on extrajudicial killings. There was a report. Maybe there is an obligation of the DCIO, of DPP. If, for example, Mr. Speaker, through your committee of JLAC, you direct the DPP Nurdin Aji to prosecute individuals who have been accused of extrajudicial killings, Mr. Speaker. And it is very sad. We went and visited somewhere in Kwale, Mr. Speaker. And in that meeting, only women came. I was shocked. I was asking my secretariat, why are women in Kwale only attending this meeting? They told me, Chairman, what you know is that the husbands and the sons of these women of Kwale, because we were in